Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. A few things to say before we get going. First of all, I am currently ill. I have a temperature. Don't worry, you can't catch it. But that's actually relevant for today's video, which I'll talk about later if I remember. And also, kind of a disclaimer, this is not advice that I'm giving anybody because I'm not qualified to do that. I'm just your average Joe that likes running. So I wanted to talk today about why I find a half marathon, which is 21.1 kilometers, easier than a 10 kilometer run. Another thing I should point out, of course, we're talking about like race pace, right? We're not talking about going for a slow jog. Of course, a 10K slow jog is easier than a 21 kilometer slow jog. And no one's disputing that. But when you're running at race pace, or at least in my experience, I find that because of the slower pace that I have to take, and most people, like logically, right? You're going to run a half K slower than a 10K. If you're not, then it means you're probably doing something wrong. You should be running a 10K quicker than what you are. So to get back to the point, because we run a half marathon slower than a 10K, I find that difference in speed makes a big difference to me. So for example, just something to add as well, which is also relevant to the point I'm going to make a bit later. When I did my first ever 10K, which was about, 7 or 8 years ago, I remember saying to my friend, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can complete 10 kilometers. It just seemed like such a long distance. I was new to running. I hadn't done much training and I'd never run that distance before. And in the end, I did it. I got a time of, I think, about 1 hour, 2 minutes. That's my slowest ever 10K time. My record now is 47 minutes, 30 odd seconds. So I've improved a lot. But yeah, when it came to stepping up to the half marathon, which I've only done twice, I did one recently, a few weeks ago, and I did one, well, actually it was last Saturday. Saturday just gone at the time of filming this. So it was last weekend. And I did one in October in the UK in Oxford. That was my first one. So I'm not an experienced half marathon runner, but I'll tell you what the big difference was. So when I stepped up to the half marathon after doing many 10Ks, I wasn't worried about the distance. Unlike with the 10K, when I first did it, as I said, I was not panicking, but I was worried. I didn't know if I could even complete the distance, the race. Whereas with the half marathon, I didn't feel like that. And that's because I'd done a lot of training, right? So my long runs, which I guess I would normally do about once a week, would range from, around the 15 kilometer mark to the 18, 19 kilometer mark. Maybe I went up to 20 kilometers one time, I can't remember. So the distance of 21 kilometers was not a daunting thing for me at all. I knew I could complete the distance. The only thing I wasn't quite sure on was the speed, because I hadn't really done much. I had an idea of what speed I was going to run at, and everything worked out really well in the end. In Oxford, I got 1 hour, 48 minutes, 48 seconds, and I was happy with that. I felt like I could have pushed on more, but I didn't feel like it was that difficult. I wasn't like breathing out my backside, so to speak. And a similar thing happened on Saturday in this latest half marathon I did, the second one. I got 1 hour, 47 minutes, 56 seconds. So, what's that? 52 seconds quicker, something like that. So I was happy with that. And again, I didn't struggle with it. I mean, I did push, speed up a bit towards the end, the last few kilometers. So I did start to breathe a bit heavier. But I feel that when I do a 10K, I'm breathing heavily, for a long part of the race. Maybe from the 3rd kilometer onwards, I'm already puffing and panting, which is something I don't experience with the half marathon. Because I'm a relatively experienced 10K runner, not a very good one, but experienced, I know kind of what my limits are. And maybe with the half marathon, maybe I could push myself a bit more. I'm a little bit worried about doing that because it is a longer race. I don't want to give myself any health problems. So I tend to be a little bit more cautious, which I think is a good thing, and run at a speed that I know I can definitely run at, and it's not going to be pushing the barriers too much. So yeah, I think because of those factors, I find it easy to run a half marathon. I think for me personally, I think I'm better built for endurance, and I'm not so good with the maintaining a fast sort of speed. It's something I'm working on, but I don't know what it is. I have a very high heart rate. So my maximum BPM, I did a test, did a video on it, is like 201 beats per minute, which is very high. So my zone 5 is like, 189 to 201 BPM. So I've got to be a little bit careful when it comes to running at a fast pace. So I think that's probably why, I find half marathons easier and also I'd say more enjoyable. So the other thing I wanted to add as well was, as I said at the beginning, I do feel ill. And I think that's unfortunately a consequence of the half marathon. I might be wrong, it might not be. It might just be a coincidence. But when we run, especially, like longer distances, I guess, running does reduce our sort of immune system, and we're more susceptible to catching viruses, colds, and that seems to have been the case with me. So yeah, that's the downside. So I'm taking, I take vitamins, daily vitamins for men. But yeah, hopefully I'll get over this soon. I don't think it's anything to worry about, but it's frustrating. I want to go out running again. I've got a 10K coming up. But yeah, anyway, I'm kind of going off topic, but I think I've made my point clear, I'd like to think. Let me know in the comments section if anyone's actually bothering to watch this, what your opinion is. Do you find a half marathon easier than a 10K or not? So basically, I think it comes down to if you're doing long runs and getting towards that half marathon distance, come a half marathon, you'll be absolutely fine, at least in terms of distance. It's just, depends about pace. How much work have you been putting in terms of speed work, intervals and all that stuff. But yeah, so even now I'm thinking about like a marathon. Maybe I could do that. But anyway, I'm a long way off that at the moment. It's just something going on in my head. Whereas like before, last year, I would never in a million years consider the marathon. I was like, no, that's off limits. But now that I've done a couple of half marathons, I'm starting to think, maybe the same logic applies. As long as I do some long runs at a longer distance, which doesn't seem too appealing anyway, but that's actually probably the harder thing. Probably doing boring long runs on your own than the actual marathon itself. Marathons, Anyway, I'm going off topic, so I'll end the video there. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.